This was the first modern factory. And in order to keep it running, hundreds and hundreds of people had to work there and around it. So they had to move near it. And when they did, they made the modern European city, living around a factory, not around a church, not around a cathedral. People lived around a factory. The factory was the center of their lives. It held the pace of their lives, it gave them their wages, and it was the thing that connected all the people living together, the modern factory.
So that's why the industrial cities and the city centers, downtowns, are not looking that fancy as like European medieval cities looked like royal and stylish and classy.
Yeah, the flex, the thing that they were most proud of in the ancient world, in the medieval and Renaissance cities, were the tall spires of the church. So you'd come to a city and, oh, there's the church. You knew where the middle of the city was. You could get your bearings. But now the factory is the center of the city. They still have churches, they still have spires, but there's a factory, and then around the factory are the buildings where people lived and worked. And you had the sense that, no, the church isn't the center anymore. It's the industry that was the center. So there was also a shift from the religious core of a city to the industrial core of a city. And it is a shift that you can feel.
In what way?
The bells of the church would tell you what time was lunch. They would tell you when to go to bed. They kept the pace of your life. Now, once steam starts, you get the steam whistle telling you when to come to work, when to go. You can hear the machines running. It's a familiar sound and a feel. The pace of your life is paced around a machine instead of around a church.
So now we are afraid that we will eventually serve the machine with the rise of AI, but turns out we already had that stage a long time ago where we are serving machines.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's true. Like, here we are working in factories complaining about the intrusiveness of AI when we're already controlled by machines. After John Loam's mysterious death in 1722, the machines didn't stop. They didn't even slow down. His brother Thomas took over, and under his control, they went faster. They produced more, and the Industrial Revolution was born. Shortly after Thomas took over, he also died. And when the patents for the brothers' factory ran out, others followed suit. They built their own factories using the same kind of mechanization, the same patterns, the same system. And these factories, they went up all over Britain, and others around the world started to copy them. This is the beginning of the first Industrial Revolution. This is when it changes everything. Like we have today with AI, you get little companies starting here and there, but eventually you reach this critical mass where it takes over and it's a new way of doing things. And that's what's happening after the Loams die. The critical mass is reached, and we start to see factories popping up, creating things all over the world. And the world is not going to look the same ever again. No more cottage industries, no more simple farming. Mechanization is going to run every part of our lives.
People around us today are really anxious that we are entering into some unknown world, like brave new world, right? So where we don't know anything, how to behave, what to expect. We're really anxious about that. But listening to you, I can imagine and even envision as a film director, so how were people feeling back then? It's pretty much the same feeling, the same anxious feeling, the same unknown ahead.
Yeah, you can't anticipate how society is going to change, what your kids are going to do, how your kids are going to respond to this. Are my kids going to work in a factory or with like modern AI? Are my kids going to think for themselves, or are they just going to copy things from ChatGPT? So yeah, we're feeling the same way now that they felt then, just with different circumstances. Now our thoughts are automated, our computers and all the information that we process is automated, whereas back then it was the actual work was automated. To work in a factory all day long, every day, and then come home to your kids, yeah, I just can't imagine what that would have been like. I think it would have been terrible, absolutely terrible to work in a factory. I mean, alcoholism rates went up this is when the temperance movement starts, when people say that they shouldn't drink alcohol, because I think you get done a shift and you're on your way home and you walk by a bar and you're like, I'll have one beer. One beer leads to a couple more because you feel so empty inside. And I think people were self-medicating and people were just completely uninterested in life because it was so hard to work in a factory. But it was consistent wages, and it was work was a way of making money, and money was just like having food. You had to have these things in order to survive. So this was essential to them. They had to work in a factory if they wanted to survive in this city.
Do you think they had back then those fears about what the future holds in terms of how society is shifting?
I think they would have feared going to work the next day. I don't even know if they would have looked ahead that long. Like, what kind of life was it? Day after day, just doing the same kind of repetitive task in front of a machine. I can't imagine what it was like. I'd much rather live now with the fears of AI than having to work in a factory, and I don't even know what the life expectancy was, 40? Not much of a life. When the Industrial Revolution is in full swing, the center point of every town is a steam chimney. It's a huge spire, and it shoots out white smoke and it shoots out black smoke. And every city is proud of their chimney, of the smoke it produces. Nowadays, when you look at a chimney on a skyline, you see it clearly, it's kind of something you're ashamed of. You know that's pollution, it's putting carbon in the atmosphere. Back then, it was a flex. You got a chimney in the skyline, you'd point to that and you'd say, see, that's the factory. That's innovation. That's where we get our money from. It was a source of pride for a town to have a factory. Even though it was very difficult to work there and the hours were long, it was still the central part of the town. It's what your town was determined by. The people would move around this factory, live near the factory, work in the factory. It was the identity of the town. Whereas in the old world, the church was the center of the town, and the owner of the town, the lord or the king or the leader, was the person who the town was centered around. Now it was a factory. So wealthy industrialists were the center of every town, not nobles or knights or lords. It was the rich people that were the powerhouse, the center of the town. And it was usually the people that could innovate. Much like today, you've got your Zuckerbergs, your Bezos, your Elon Musks. These are the innovators that we see as having all the money. Back then, it was the people who were able to bring the technological advancements. In the old world, whoever the king favored, the nobles, the lords, the knights, these are the ones that have the power, that rule the town. Now it's whoever has the best innovations, who has the most capital. These are the ones that we look to as leaders and as the people we look up to. It's no different today than it was in 1721, in 1821, in 1921. It's about innovation, power, capital, and factories.